start question and answer. So you say it's ready for question and answer.
Just wondered how it was for you when you first came to the West. You first sort of were plunged into the Western world from having been in the monastery.
Well, I didn't feel a lot of differences actually, because most of the time when I was in Nepal, at Kopan, there were a lot of Western visitors, so I got a bit used to the Western ways. So it wasn't much of difficulties.
Rinpoche, how many years of training have you got ahead of you now?
Since I'm going to Sarah, I think I have to study about 21 years. It's an extensive study there, because you learn a lot of the 5 root texts and a lot of commentaries, and each level takes about a year or there. So I have to stay about 21 years actually. But yeah.
Long time.
Yes.
Do you find the learning easy since you've been here before, or the learning has been done before?
What learning do you mean by easy?
The practices that you're learning at Sarah, for instance. Will you find that easy, or do you have to struggle?
I may struggle at start because they have very extensive study schedules, but after a while I'll get used to it.
Rinpoche, do you think Buddhism in the West needs to be a little bit different to how it was in Tibet? And if you do, how different do you think it should be? How should it look?
Well, I think there should be a bit of difference to cope with the Western environment, because the times and the ways are different when it was in Tibet. So I think it should a bit change to be more practical to Western ways. Other than that, I think Buddhism in West is quite secure and good, seeing the situation in Tibet and Nepal now. I can actually say Buddhism is safer in West right now.
What do you think is the most important thing for Western Dharma practitioners to be doing or to be working on?
Well, I think the most important practice for Westerners and for everyone, doesn't have to be a special one for Westerners, a special one for Tibetans. I think the most important one for everyone is to have to be compassionate and have peace, and have the effort to make the world at peace. That's what His Holiness the Dalai Lama has always been telling to the world as he travels around the West. And doesn't have to be a specific practice or specific temple you have to go to in order to practice the Dharma. Having compassion is the most important thing is to have the compassion, to have the temple of compassion in everyone's heart. And that's the most important practice I find. Because compassion, then it leads to great compassion. Great compassion leads to bodhicitta, and bodhicitta leads to enlightenment. So I find compassion is the base, very important.
Rinpoche, what do you, from the people that you've gotten to know in the West, what do you think are some of our greatest obstacles to practice and to studying with our Western mind?
Well, I'm not really sure about adults, but for kids, this is for kids though, because when I was at school I was with children, so I'm not really exactly sure about for adults, but for children I think the main obstacle is distraction of electronic devices. They're supposed to be tools, but sometimes children abuse it and turn it into their way of entertainment. So I think a very strong obstacle is distraction of electronic devices, and not having boundaries in the ways because in my school, some of the children, they don't really follow so much of the rules. They don't really, because the parents didn't give them any boundaries of any sort, so they can practically do anything. But in monasteries, they give you boundaries, stopping you from doing something bad that will harm yourself. So the most, I think, obstacle for them is that there's not much boundaries and the distraction. I think Those two are the main obstacles I find.
Thank you.
Through my experience, okay? Not saying 100% everywhere.
I think it's the same for adults too.
Oh.
And Rinpoche, I think all of us are very concerned about the environmental crisis on the planet, and wonder if you could talk about that problem.
Well, I think the problem in the world with the environmental problem is that people are not everyone is taking effort into protecting the world, because some people, they don't even give the thought of it. Oh, I just waste the paper because I don't really care. There's some other mentalities of people. So with that kind of mentality, the world, it will soon, the resources and everything will deplete. So I think the most important thing is to people to have at least have the thought. If they can't put in action, at least have the thought to stop people from wasting resources. And I mean, at least if they can't do that, it's impossible to stop the world from the resource from depleting. They must have the effort, at least have the thought. If they can do that, then it's really good, and they can even do better by putting in action. And not just, sometimes thought is important, but action is more important, because you are actually doing it, so that's really important.
Rinpoche, we've been having teachings, and one of the subjects recently is on karma, and a thought came up that I would ask you this question. I ride a push bike for recreation and exercise, and where I ride my bike, there's often a lot of insects that cross my path. Now, if I'm being mindful, which is not all the time, I avoid them. But when I'm not being mindful, I'm sure that I run over and I kill these beings. I wonder, is there any particular practice, apart from medicine Buddha, that you would suggest that I do?
I think a really good practice should be, after that incident happens, I mean, you may have realized that after that it happened, is to do a purification prayer, the Om. That's to purify the negative karma. But it's not just that prayer, you have to have the steps through it, saying that, oh, I regret doing it. So there are many steps to it. But one of them being that you realize your problem. That's the first one, the problem or the negative thing you've done. Second is to find the cure to it. The third is to have the thought that I will never do it again. So you should have the while doing the purification prayer, you have these motivations. I think that's a really good prayer to do.
I've read in Geshe-la's book about, that actually we're after enlightenment from really young, in reference to seeking happiness and the ultimate happiness, which of course is enlightenment. So, that sense that we think that it's in external things, but what we're really after, when we're into adulthood, we realise can't be found. Can you just speak a little bit about that, about how to transition from accepting that happiness is an inside job, not to be found outside?
Well, I think I'll try to explain this the best I can. So you were asking how to change the mind from thinking that we can gain happiness through external causes to internal causes?
Yes.
Well, I think a good way to think about it is that by observing the world itself, if ultimate happiness is gained by external causes, then everyone should be happy right now. Everyone should be in great bliss right now, which is not true, is it?
No.
So you have to be observing, to do some analyzing, by finding as many factors as possible, because there are lots, of trying to convince yourself, saying that external causes are only temporary happiness, which won't last forever, and these happiness are actually happiness that won't last forever, and if you keep seeking for it, through the path of it, you might suffer a lot. Like if you want to buy the newest iPhone, for example, like I think I'll get a lot of happiness if I get this new iPhone and show it to my friends and stuff. Along the way, you have to pay money, you have to wait, and you get so much hardship. So you have to think through a lot of that.
Okay, thank you.
I think everybody has their rights, I think. Yeah. So I think we could do some prayers for food.
I was very, very touched by the movie, which showed the search for yourself. And can you talk about at what point? I mean, I don't know whether it was where you can remember the point where you know, or if you know that you've become this reincarnation.
Well, I suppose at that time I would think, yes, I am. But I don't really remember what happened at that time, because I can't really remember at all what happened at that time. But I suppose I knew, because in the movie as well I said, oh, this is me and this is me.
Yeah. But later on, then obviously once the film was finished, there must have come a point where you started to feel you are recognised and just,
Yeah, people told me 100 times
Yeah.
already, so I got
yeah. Thank you.
But may you explain the Buddha bodies, the Kayas, the Dharmakaya?
there are three the bodies of Buddha. The Nirmanakaya, which is the body form which the Buddha comes to this world. That's the Nirmanakaya body.
Like the individual?
The individual, yes. This is the body that comes to the world to teach you Dharma. That's the body that's not permanent. That's the impermanent body. That's the body that shows that comes to the world to teach you Dharma, and also show that if Buddha, the body itself can also it also shows that nobody is permanent. It's also teach that teaching as well, because Buddha passed away, didn't he? So it's also show that. And there's the Dharmakaya and Sambhuvakaya, is it? Dharmakaya and Sambhuvakaya. Those are the two of the wisdom mind, and those are the permanent ones that it cannot be seen by humans. And that's the best I can explain. Yeah.
Rinpoche, do you have a feeling about what is good for Chantong Centre to concentrate on in the next year, perhaps?
I'm not really sure. Not really sure, because I don't really know the programs in the centre.
Yeah.
For future.
Oh, future.
Any vision for Chantong Centre?
I wish that Chantong Centre gets a permanent centre, so that he can host homes for sanghas and have resident teachers, so that they can have have regular classes, so it's easier for, if you have only any questions, it'll be easier to answer through one teacher, because sometimes if different teachers come, they have different views on a subject. So sometimes people get confused, like me. I always get confused. I'm a confused person. So if for you to be not like me, to get a permanent teacher is quite good. So that's what I would recommend and view.
So I've got one more actually. The Western mind is very sceptical about rebirth, and perhaps even the continuity of mind from life to life. What do you find is the best way to consider that issue, to become more familiar with the Buddhist view?
I think a good way to be familiar with rebirth and is to first of all is to follow and understand the law of karma, because rebirth is possible through karma. So if you study karma properly, if you believe in it, rebirth, you believe in rebirth. If you just acknowledge karma but not really have faith in it, know that it is there, you won't believe in karma. If you won't believe in rebirth. So in order to believe there's rebirth, you need to believe there's karma. So karma plays a really, really important role in it. A role in rebirth, because if someone born in lower realms is due to their negative karma, you can't be just they roll a wheel, choose which rebirth they come in. That's just not practical. It's due to, if they did good, they will be born in a good realm. If they did bad in their lifetime, they were born in a lower realm. So karma is a really important role.
Rinpoche, what's it like for you to be such a young age and a Rinpoche?
Thank you. Well, for some reason I feel special. I'm not bragging about it, but I feel like overwhelmed, everywhere I'm going around Australia. Feel quite privileged. Well, but I should not abuse this.
And Rinpoche, sorry, I've got a million questions.
Carry on.
What's your plan? Have you got any thoughts for your future, for what you want to do with this life?
Well, I want to first of all go to Sarah and learn all the philosophy and stuff, so that it'll be easier for me to teach share my knowledge, share my experience. Because right now my knowledge is 1% to all of yours. So if I go to Sarah, I might at least get 10%. So it's easier to communicate with all of you. And 50 years later, the programs I am planning is to be like Geshe Lama, to go around being a touring teacher. I want to be like him. He's my role model.
What do you advise is the best thing when you have no emotional control? I'm not saying you, I'm saying myself. When you've heard the Dharma and you really appreciate it, but then you have periods where you just have no control emotionally. And it brings harm to yourself and others. What is the best thing in those times?
When you mean emotional, you can't control emotion, means like sudden bursts of sadness and anger.
And yeah.
Well, I think the best way is that you need to acknowledge and think about the people surrounding you. You said that sometimes it harms the people around you. You have to think about it deeply. saying that if you have this emotional burst and stuff like that, if you will harm the other people, and if you can't think about that, you're harming yourself. So there's no point in that. And you have to try your best to calm down and think about the good. Think about a way to cure your anger by having patience. And if you're sad, think about happiness, gain through compassion. And also, you have to think that your gurus are around everywhere. The Buddha and Bodhisattvas are around everywhere. And having sudden bursts of, it's not practical, because you will never feel lonely, a sudden place of loneliness, sadness, because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are everywhere around you. You're never lonely, you're never lonely, and if you're not lonely, you will never be sad as well around. So you shouldn't feel that, because you're technically harming people around you and everything around you, so that's not really good. So you have to remind yourself every time that happens. Because sometimes it happens to me as well. And Geshe Lama will say, don't do that, don't do that.
I'm pretty sure we all know how that feels.
Question. Rinpoche, I came from Indonesia and I just came back from Indonesia, and probably my question quite related with Greg's question. And because of the high temperature and also the humidity, and in some places in Indonesia I have to sleep over in places with lots of mosquitoes, and yeah, it's really challenged my patience actually, because like I can deal with only one or three mosquitoes, but when they count 30 mosquitoes all in my leg, so yeah, to be honest, I don't know how to deal with those kind of stuff. And also ants, I also facing lots of ants during my trip. So do you have any suggestions for that one? Or?
I think the best thing is to prevent it. Because if you can prevent it, if you prevent something, you don't have to find how to like get rid of them. So, so if you could prevent it, like get a mosquito net or something. So, I mean that also, if you just feel it's good, just let them have your blood, because they're just wanting food. It's like, what happens if you were the mosquito? I mean, if someone's trying to kill you, how would you feel? You feel really sad, like, oh, I just want my lunch when this guy's just trying to kill me. And ants are like, they just want to get like food for their family, because ants also have their a lot of other ants. Some ants go and get some food for them. It's just like you earning money to buy food for your family. And what if while you are trying to get money and stuff, earning money, someone just comes and kills you? What happens? How would the family feel? So they also have feelings. So you have to be quite very patient, I mean. And I trust you have a lot of patience.
How important is it that we're vegetarian? I think some people, it seems, they're told by doctors or something that they should eat some meat. But is it still good to resist that and just to be vegetarian, even if it's hard for our bodies?
Well, I myself, I'm not vegetarian, by the way. But I mean, being vegetarian is quite healthy, actually. I mean, some doctors say have meat because it's a good source of protein. You can get other sources like beans; they give you protein as well. But I think a good way should be, that relates to Dharma as well, to your diet, is eating whatever is offered, not wasting anything. Having whatever is offered, that's one way. Another way is that being vegetarian is really good. I mean, when you go older, it's really good. I promote it, even though myself I'm not vegetarian. But yeah, I mean, it's just depends. Yes, just depends. Because sometimes if the person is really sick and you need a lot of protein, and the doctor says have it, just follow your doctor. Depends on the situation. If you think you can be a vegetarian, there's no problem, then be a vegetarian. if other people are telling you to be a vegetarian and you don't want to be vegetarian, you don't have to be. Just one's choice. If they can, if they can be, I could recommend. Right now I'm growing. I'm a growing child. That's what Geshe tell me. Eat a lot, even though I don't. But I need some protein to grow because I'm really short and I'm short for my age.
And are there special practices you do before eating the meat?
Yeah, there is a specific prayer you do before eating meat. It's called Om Besasatu Hong. You recite it 7 times. At most you can do more, but I normally do 7 times. It's a good number. No, okay. Sorry, I got my brain got. It's sorry. That's the mantra. And while doing the mantra, you have the motivation saying that the animal which has been harmed or has been killed for this meat to provide me, may this animal will never born as an animal again, and may they born as the higher realms. And if they have a good karma, may they be Buddha immediately. If they can't, at least born as a human realm, so they can practice the Dharma and enlighten. That's the motivation you should have. And it's Om Abhira Kezara Hum. 7 times.
Rinpoche, when we're going through difficulties, what's the best thing, the way we can think in our mind to kind of help us get through difficulties without getting all stuck in the negativity? And
well, I think a good way is to have an open mind, not just being a narrow minded saying, oh, this is a problem. It's just a problem. You just have to have a clear mind, just find as many possibilities that you can help to clear the problem. So sometimes people, they get angry at a person and they just think the person is the enemy. Narrow-minded thought. That's not good. You have to think why the person's angry at you. It could be a reason that you have done something bad to them, or it could be that they have had a bad day. So you have to just analyze it, think as many possibilities as possible, and try to get a right antidote to it. Because right antidote could be, it's just a way of saying it. It can be anything. Like it could be a way of escaping it or a way of curing it. Yeah. Just the best thing is an open mind, which I also don't really have a lot. Geshe has always an open mind. He's a really good example.
Another question, in schools there's lots of bullying. I don't know if you noticed there was any bullying in the school that you went to, but what's the best way we can help bullies become more compassionate?
Well, in my school there are quite few bullies, I can say. Well, I think a good way is to tell them how people feel when they're bullying, because some people don't know that they're bullying, because they're just trying to have jokes or have joke with someone. It's like teasing. But sometimes they don't know it, so you have to tell them that how the person feels when they're feeling bullied, and how would they feel if they were bullied. Another way is to just have a good example, a good example around showing that an anti-bullying atmosphere around. Then people would just, it's not in the fashion anymore. I'm not going to do it. Because sometimes if one person starts bullying, another person starts, and it's contagious. So another way is to just stop it from happening. If you see anything like that, just stop it immediately. Tell them the negatives of it. I think that's a good way. That's also an advice from my teacher.
Do you have any good ways to overcome fears? Do you know?
Well, I know a few. I've experienced a few that when you have something you feel, it could be an object or it could be an event. You have to feel that what's the purpose of having fear? It doesn't overcome it. It doesn't overcome the event or the object or the animal itself. instead you must have, if it's an animal or a person, you must have compassion instead. But sometimes people have overwhelming fear, which is not good. Just change it into overwhelming compassion, saying, how would the person feel if they think that you have been feared? They would think they themselves is evil. That's not good. Everyone should not feel that they are evil. Everyone has Buddha nature. Everybody has compassion in them. So you should not let people feel that. So you have to think, oh, if I have fear for a person, if you can't think about the other person itself, think about yourself. You're just making a barrier for yourself, a restriction to yourself. If you have a restriction to yourself that from doing something good or doing something, it's not good. So I think that's a good way. I would like to give this to the center to have a new permanent center, since there are so many good members. They need a really good center. So this is for the new center.
Thank you.
And also it's from everyone's contribution, because if you want to have a good center, you need everyone's contribution. Because Anila has been working very, very hard. It needs a lot of help.
Even you consecrate ceremony in the individual home, then the must have some kind of like party, abundance, and drinks, and it says that it will bring a lot of karma to flourish.
Wonderful. Well, we're good at doing that.
Don't know whether.
It's like rejoicing.
I have a lot of books at my house.